Welcome everyone to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020. We started together for Sharon.com in her memory. Today I have incredible guests and an author, someone I admire, and I actually was excited, not just because he's an author, because I now know how tough it is the process, but even in the area of Parkinson's disease awareness, which isn't easy. It's almost like you have the independent publishing, and then on top of that, our topic, which is very important to us all. But I want to welcome Michael, and I just want to thank you for your friendship and time over the last several months.
I thank you as well. It's been
Well,
glad to know you.
Oh, yeah. No, well, we have a lot to talk about today, and obviously, I hope this discussion continues beyond today. Maybe you could tell us about yourself to start, and then I actually want to point out an important thing, which is a lot of the work you do, but maybe you could talk about, I don't know if you actually have, and I think you do have your own foundation, so I wanted to touch on that too, but let's get right into it. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Certainly. I joined my journey or my life-changing event was my own diagnosis with Parkinson's. That's back in 2004. So I'm on my 20th anniversary. Haven't looked that one up. It's not silver. I know that's 25. Is it wood maybe? Something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's a broken glass, from somebody dropped it with their tremors from Parkinson's. I don't know. But 20 years ago now, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And it certainly was a change to my life. I was 46, had two children in college, two more in the wings, that were preparing for college as well. And somehow you have to make your life go on after you get that kind of diagnosis. So I did, and I started my own foundation in 2007, 3 years later. It was kind of a challenge maybe, or an idea that came from a mentor of mine. I was in a career transition at the time, and I was trying to get a paying job with the Fox Foundation, but they didn't, at the time, they were just getting going themselves, and they needed somebody that wanted to stay in New York. I didn't want to be a New York transplant,
Mhm.
and I was looking to stay where I was here in Minneapolis. So eventually, we kind of parted ways, but my mentor said, well, if your ideas, for foundation work were so good, why don't you start your own? So I was like, okay, why not? So I did. Not, I didn't know, I was an accounting major by trade, so I had a strong management background. So I gave it a whirl, and I really didn't get much going with it until about 2010. And that's when I created a signature event for the foundation, and that was a Christmas light show that was in sync to music. Started with my house and 8,000 Christmas lights. I got some really good media coverage. Doubled the show the next year to 16,000 lights on my house,
Oh,
and then double that to 32,000 the next year. And ultimately, I got up to 58,000 lights, which became to be one light for every person diagnosed with Parkinson's in the prior year. And we had call them a sequence that would start in the dark with all the lights off, and they would ramp up to full on. And it's a real rarity in light shows for them to kind of show their muster with everything on at once. So it was a unique event. I had 8 houses that were covered with the lights in my neighborhood. So it was a neighborhood event, got great media coverage. And that, as I said, that was my way. I had people from like Duluth that would come to see the lights and see the show. I had people look for me on the sideline to shake my hand and thank you. I mean, it was really, I did it for 12 years. It's just a phenomenal experience in itself to raise awareness. And the funny thing about it was, I was just in Colorado to see one of my grandchildren over this last weekend. And when we first got together, she's a school teacher, so she took us to see her class. And as we were going there, she was talking about a friend she had just met that, as the subject came up, Parkinson's, the friend said, well, we have Parkinson's in our family. And my daughter said, well, so do we. As a matter of fact, my dad has this, he used to do a light show for the holidays. And the woman looked at her, and this is in Colorado now. And she goes, PD Shimmers, we love that show.
mhm.
So, I mean, it was nice to see, I mean, two people out of the cold just come together and they knew my work. That felt real good every time I could tweak somebody's heart or get a thank you, I know that they're inspired by what I do or what I did. And I'm fortunate in that vein that in my work, I've seen the results of touching people with Parkinson's and how I've been able to help them with their lives, get on with their lives and just feel a little better.
That's beautiful. And I don't know if you know that every Christmas I get excited for that big light show that's on. I don't know if you were on that one, but maybe you need to come back out of retirement for the follow-up and get on that show. Have you ever seen that one?
Oh, I've seen it. You know, they're in
Crazy.
the millions of lights now. So I'm nowhere near that big. And you know, the 58,000 was quite a chore in itself.
Well, you win the award for me if I'm in charge of that judging. So I appreciate it. Well, that's an amazing story, and that's why I loved even talking to you before we did that other interview. In a few moments, I'll share what we've done together. But it's always amazing to do these shows because there's so many unique people out there that have such incredible, inspiring stories, and I just want the world to know. So I really appreciate that. One other thing, not involved with Parkinson's that I admire is that you've been married for 40 years. I have been married for over 10. So it's, I'm trying to catch you. So what are some of the secrets for our listeners?
Listening. You know, I just we were a great team. I couldn't do what I do for my work with Parkinson's if my wife wasn't in full support of me and kind of in my corner at all times. She's probably eavesdropping now as I'm talking because she's in the other room. But she's just a fantastic person. And I almost, you know, I at times I ask myself the question, who has the worst of it? Me with the diagnosis or her as my caregiver? And I would almost vote 10 to 1 that the caregiver has a much harder time in dealing with Parkinson's and its effect on each of us in the family than the caregiver. I admire any and all caregivers for Parkinson's. It's a tough job.
And I appreciate you pointing that out. It's amazing how Parkinson's disease, as you just stated, doesn't just affect the person diagnosed, affects the family, actually the neighborhood, the community,
Yeah,
and it
exactly.
even reaches across states and the world. So that's why, again, we do what we do. There's so much to get to, but I do want to bring up an important thing, and that's the book. Maybe you can tell a little bit about the book, and everyone listening, please share this podcast. Please support Mike. Please, actually now I believe you can go to Together for Sharon and order the book directly, which is incredible. And that's something I'm trying to do more where we can, any way I can help directly help individuals with Parkinson's, whether it's for medications or just support. That's a big thing I'm really trying to do because again, I love these big organizations, but I don't know how much, they can really get to the one individual person like you. So we try to, at least my idea was to add books like yours up there. So maybe you can benefit directly in your family. So maybe now we could
Yeah.
touch on, I can't say exactly, I'm not good at crossword puzzles, but I love this one.
Yeah, it was I had the idea for a book for years, for a few years. I guess I'm a good storyteller. I've heard that. And I always people would say, you know, you ought to write a book. You ought to write a book. And so when I finished with my last light show, because that was a year-round thing, just planning for it and putting it together. I started trying to write my stories down, and eventually come up with a way to marry them all together. And then I needed to come up with a title. And I wanted the title to kind of reflect my attitude and my some of my personality. So I came up with, Puck Farkinson's. If you think about it, you'll understand the play that's there. Um, but it's a lot different title than most Parkinson books you'll see out there. So it's a definite reflection of my attitude and my humor that I try to maintain with Parkinson's. The book tells my story. It's a 20-year odyssey with Parkinson's and my resilience to live life the way I want to live it and stay optimistic and stay in the light of optimism as opposed to the dark spiral that you could easily fall into with a disease that is progressive and doesn't have a cure and can really drag you down just on any given day. Um, it's a struggle, and people have to realize that it's you see Michael J. Fox, who's a true hero. in every measure, in every shape of the word. Uh, for a guy that, puts himself on display and lets people see what Parkinson's is and what it can do. And even now, as I look at the picture, I could see the deadness in my face and, kind of a real lack of expression. It's all part of the disease. People don't think about it, but it affects people differently in so many ways, and tries to change their life. You have to fight it. You have to stay optimistic. My thought that I always have is when you have the hardest time trying to get yourself to move or to stop your tremors, you have to fight it. And for me, I don't have tremors. I'm pretty fortunate. I'm like 1 in 10 that that get the disease that don't have visible tremors. But I'm the opposite. I like to say instead of my body moving uncontrollably, I can't control my body to get it to move. I have a big problem with freezing and just being rigid and stiff. And that said, when I can't move, it's a time I have to somehow crawl, stand up, you know, have my feet, I can't think of the word, along the floor, kind of just drag around, but I'll get up and move. And suddenly, as I'm moving, I find it a little easier to get moving a little more. And so then now I'm maybe walking with a walker and doing circles around the house. And it's just little things like that that ultimately help you feel better and keep you going. Stretch, when I can. Just when I can't move, say, the heck with it, I'm going to move and make yourself move.
I think you look amazing, so I appreciate you sharing that with us. And my mother actually also didn't have the external tremor, so she found it frustrating at times because she felt that people didn't believe, her diagnosis. But
Mm.
eventually, towards the end, unfortunately, she did show the external also. But that's why it's a difficult disease because it's so different. Everyone's journey is so different, but we all come together with some similarities.
Right. So that's when I put this all together in the book, and I tell my story of how I came to start a foundation and what I try to do with my own foundation. And, I'm reminded of a story in there that I fell in love with Bombas socks. And it's a plug for them, I guess. But I wish I had something with them, but I don't. But anyway, they're when they were just selling socks, simple socks. They had a tagline that it's the best sock you'll ever wear. And I found that to be true. I bought my first pair, just one pair, because they were rather expensive, and they fit nice, and it made it easier. You have so many problems going on with Parkinson's that if you can eliminate one little thing, like what your socks do to you, do it. So I gave away socks at support group meetings, and you talk about the big guys and all these big organizations. There was one gentleman approached me later after I had given away the socks, and he said. Don't you think we're all kind of stretching and stealing dollars from each other? Maybe we should just turn it all over to the big guys, and you should kind of just fade away. I said, well, when's the last time Michael J. Fox gave you a pair of socks? He kind of looked at me and goes, good point.
Yeah,
So,
like
I mean, that's what I aim to do, and they're going to find the cure. There's no doubt about it. I'll send money their way every chance I can to help with that. But I look at the people that are here in Minneapolis, in particular, that I see, or walking down the street or trying to walk down the street that have Parkinson's, and ask myself, what can I do to help them? So I work with another organization that helps put wheels underneath bikes. And I was on a group ride just today, trying to spin. It's a beautiful day out here. We went 12 miles, and I feel great. And that's, I want other people to feel like that from getting the experience on a bike ride as well. So I help her, find people that are looking to ride, and we'll get them out there.
you're making me feel bad. I never learned how to ride a bike.
Oh,
I'm growing up in Brooklyn, New York. I never rode a bike. I have a trike. You never see that? It's a,
well, I rode it. It's a tricycle as well. It's a recumbent tricycle, so
yeah,
you don't have to learn anything because you're just sitting on your butt.
yeah. The one chapter I really enjoy was the one on the Cliff Notes, and that's page 22 because when I first learned something, I buy that book for dummies, and I'm proud of it. I like the Cliff Notes also, but I appreciate you sharing that. Is there one area before we move forward that you enjoyed kind of sharing the most in all the chapters in the book, or they all just equally important?
Well, they're all kind of important. I think for me, here's where I was really fortunate in that I met somebody that was trying to help people with Parkinson's, and his name was David Zinn at a conference in Atlanta. And you know, from here, I tell that in the book I write about my experiences in Atlanta, which were kind of funny in that I was at a conference of about 400 or 500 people with early onset Parkinson's disease. And we go down to the grand hall, you know, for the first day's general session, and there's coffee outside, you know, little tables outside the hall, and you know, like as you see in most meeting places that had coffee, and the coffee cups were stacked up like six high, and you're supposed to grab one off the stack, and then you know, pull the handle on the coffee machine, fill it up, and find some cream somewhere and dump it in. But wait a second, this is a meeting for people with Parkinson's. People with Parkinson's don't exactly hold a cup well in their hand, you know, and go for a nice walk into the banquet hall. So there were people, they couldn't hardly move their feet, and they're holding a cup and they're shaking, and the coffee's going everywhere. And it just, yeah, I said it wasn't just funny; it was hysterical watching people, and myself included, try to get from the front of the hall to where your seat was in the middle of the hall. Well, the good news was the next day we came down, and the banquet manager, probably after she saw our carpet, said, I got to do something. And she literally had coffee pots and cups and everything right on the tables, so that you no longer had to figure out how you're going to get from A to B. You just got to B, and everything was there for you to go. So I mean, that was, you know, I kind of said, you know, people can be taught if they just think, you know, Parkinson's, what do I need to do a little different to help this group? But it was here I met David Zid, and he had a book out called Delay the Disease. And literally, this was 2007, 2008, back when exercise was a word that was hardly ever spoken in conjunction with people with Parkinson's. It was just becoming science, where it was shown to have positive results. And so David was out there with his simple tricks to help teach people to get moving, basically, and improve their lives. So I talked with him and sponsored his trip out to Minneapolis. And I was disappointed that, I was new in my foundation. I wasn't well known. I hadn't started the light show yet, so I didn't have a great, publicity wheel going. So we had about 20, 25 people that showed up for this meeting, where he was explaining different ways to beat the disease. And at the meeting, he showed you a simple trick to rise from a chair. He says, who here has trouble struggling getting up from a chair? And a few hands went up. And you have to think about this for a minute, because it's second nature. You sit in a chair, and when you have to stand up, and boom, you're up and out of there. But person with Parkinson's, you sit and you look down, and it's like, uh-oh, how am I going to get up out of here? Well, the thing of it is, you have to kind of reorganize your thought. Don't sit up straight all with your back all the way against the back of the chair when you're ready to leave. You have to move forward and sit on the front edge of the chair. Hopefully, it's a solid chair, and then place your feet, out, with your knees bent, 45-degree angle. 45. I should think of my math here. Is that 90-degree angle, and uh, put your hands kind of like this together, and then scoop down in front of you between your knees and legs, and then shoot your arms up like a steam shovel. And as your steam shovel is going up, you kind of bring your body up with it. You just kind of give yourself a trick or an extra motion to get it going. And David did this, and everybody kind of did it in conjunction. And all of a sudden, in the corner, this one young lady, young, and I use that in various different ways, but she said, I did it. I did it. I did it. And so everybody's eyes go to her, and David's, he kind of runs over to her to see what the problem was. And she's like, you don't understand. It's been 4 months since I was able to rise from a chair unassisted. You've given me back a part of my life. And I look around, and my wife's crying, and I'm crying, and everybody in the room's crying, because it was just an unbelievable experience. And I said, I told my wife, um, if for no other reason, if I ever ask why I have Parkinson's, why me, it was because of that day that, I was meant to bring those two people together and improve their lives.
That's an amazing story. And actually, moving from that, I just want to share some of the work you've done and how people can also support you. So give me one moment. I think it totally.
I'll kind of take, as you're looking for that, I'll just add this in. It's one thing I kind of talk about towards the end of the book is the power of one.
Yeah. Hopefully,
I'm just looking at my pictures. They look like nice
you
pictures.
know, I think
Caught me
you
by
know that,
surprise.
you know that gentleman.
Yeah. Well, he's a good looking guy, which takes my next line that Parkinson's has a hidden secret. Did you know that?
No.
It makes you better looking.
Oh, nice.
And I'm proof here because, I've 20 years now, I've had Parkinson's, and I'll walk up to a person and introduce myself, or, they'll come up to me and they go, man, 20 years, Mike, you look great. You just really look great. Before I had Parkinson's, nobody ever told me I looked great. So nobody said anything. So, you just have to put two and two together. It must be the Parkinson's that makes me look so good.
I I want to just share with everyone, if you head to TogetherForSharon.com, you'll see an interview Mike did with me. Actually, I think it was, yeah, November. So we've kind of been in touch for some time, but you can see more in depth how to reach out to him. And also please share. Here you can see to contact him and PD Shimmers. We have a moment. Let me see if I can actually, it's not hyperlinked, but this is why
Oh.
we do stuff live. And also if you go to TogetherForSharon.com and click on media and books, you can see right here Mike's book, and then you click here and it literally will bring you right to help support him. And you can see his 2003 book. And since we're live, and just want to also share one more area, and this is the PD Shimmers and also more on the foundation. So please, again, support Mike and all he does. This is a beautiful photo. It must be you when you were a child. Just kidding. And more videos and things. But one question I did have, since we're at optimism, hope, and some of your incredible stories, how do you tell people out there listening, to keep the hope alive? That's an important. I mean, we could do a whole show just on the word hope, but maybe you can kind of touch on that as I scroll through.
Well, I use hope in that it helps you remember how you can beat Parkinson's. That's humor, uh, optimism, invested yourself in a passion, and above all things, exercise. HOPE, hope. And I think that's just a nuts and bolts way. Uh, most people the strong people find a way to use humor to help themselves, and they could well be optimists, and they're exercising, but they're missing the one that's passion. What have you always wanted to do in life? I mean, I retired on disability when I was 55, 54, 55, it's 10 years early. So right at the prime of my working life, that's the one thing that I guess Parkinson in a sense won, because it kept me from being in the workforce, kept me from being at my best, that I could be in the workforce. So this is when I dumped myself into my foundation, and especially into my light show, as a way to be a symbol of 60,000 Americans, as just to help let people know that there's people out here waiting for a cure and that we need help. And I can look back now that the 10 years I was on disability, the insurer spent $219,000 to give me disability benefits. This is in addition to my Social Security benefits. And those two together bringing you up to 65% of your pre-retirement salary. So, those that are out there, think about that. Take your salary and take 65% of it and see how well you think you could live. And then for most people, they're not as fortunate as I was, where I had the disability policy, the 210 grand that would be paid out over 10 years. So I don't know how anybody can survive in today's world, not even 65% of their salary, or
There
just Social Security alone.
And my mother, unfortunately, I'm in Florida. They don't consider Parkinson's end of life, so they really didn't even help us since she had no long-term disability. So
Um,
very, very tough. We actually had to pay about $12,000 a month for a while just to have people come in to help. And I knew they didn't know much about Parkinson's, but my goal was that she didn't fall, because I knew if she fell on top
right.
of Parkinson's, that would have been a major issue. But that's in my book for a different talk. But Yeah, so I appreciate you also sharing that. There's one also area maybe you can touch on is DBS for everyone out there who doesn't know what it is or what it stands for. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Then I want to shift to a little bit more about Mike. So let's,
Okay. Well, DBS, I could be short and sweet because I have not had DBS.
right.
So I am a 20-year honest drug guy, I guess, with Parkinson's. Um, DBS actually wouldn't help my symptoms a whole lot as I've researched into it. But basically, I'm a chicken. Uh, the people that get DBS surgery, they are my heroes because I cannot imagine having someone operating on my brain while I'm awake to see as they're putting prods in. As the old Seinfeld line, I would say, if they're going to do that to me, the expletives would be flying, basically. I can't picture myself. For me, it's Dr. Bones McCoy would be my hero. He's who I vision, that's how I want my Parkinson's to be cured. I want to, put the little gadget on the exterior of my head that goes do 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 do, and he goes, "Hey, you're all better," and be all better, with the modern medicine. So,
I hope for that too for everyone. That would be amazing. My mother also didn't really even want to talk. The second I said DBS, it was next conversation. She just wasn't. And it's not like you said, everyone's not a candidate. It depends on the individual. So now I want to shift our talk as we kind of wrap up soon is the world of more about the real Mike, since I like how you wrote the real Mike. But maybe you could, I mean, you kind of touched on it earlier, but who helps you during times of struggle? I was a caregiver. Maybe you could give a few tips to people who are caregivers listening. And I know you're going to say your wife is the inspiration, but maybe you could touch more on that.
well, I'll try. Let's see. Uh, Caregivers, uh, again, I say I have the utmost respect because they have to know when to speak, when to be quiet, when to motivate or prod you to do something. Uh, and just help you maintain a sense of optimism. I mean, anybody that they're special people, and I'm not talking about my wife. I mean, I'm fortunate that here in Minnesota, there's a magical place to go to called the Struthers Parkinson Center in Golden Valley, Minnesota. This is a place that specializes in treatment of Parkinson's. That's all they do is treat people and help people with Parkinson's. They help, when you're diagnosed. I've been there all 20 years of my Parkinson's, and my neurologist is a godsend to me. And then all the people in this place are very, very special people. You watch them and how they interact with people with Parkinson's, and they're just amazing to watch and to follow. And if you're ever anywhere near the Twin Cities, if you stop in there, uh, you'd be amazed. It's a special place, and I'm so fortunate. It's 4 miles down the street for me, and I mean that could be a place that should be cookie cuttered out across the United States to help people with Parkinson's because it makes a difference in lives. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's important. It's unfortunately, and that's why I hope the national plan to end Parkinson's passes very soon, because there are individuals in certain cities and areas that just don't have that opportunity, which is kind of tough. I want everyone to be able to also have such an opportunity to have the best treatment and help. Some areas that just don't have anything. So it's hopefully that bill will help change that. If someone, or likely someone listening might just have been diagnosed with Parkinson's, what advice could you provide?
Uh, don't avoid other people with Parkinson's. Help them help seek you out or seek them out. Uh, Surround yourself with people that are optimists. You have to build your support team quickly because that's how you get through those rough times to get started. Find a support group or ask where the closest support group is. Don't fear the support group. Just go sit there and try it out. Sit there and listen and uh, I just yeah, that's where you go to work. You have to make yourself, Ford Motor Cars used to have an expression, Ford is their job one. Uh, it was building better cars. Well, job one is building a better you now. Um, so put the things to the tools together to help you. Uh, Maintain your own sense of humor. Uh, be an optimist. Surround yourself with optimists because you don't need a pessimist saying, "No, what that?" You just don't worry about it. Things will work out. No, forge your own path. Make your own path. Um, and give me a call. I'll be glad to do anything I can to try to get you started off right.
I love that. And then what is one moment, and you've already mentioned a few, but one of the most memorable moments that stands out through all of your work on advocacy that you can share? And on top of the two that you already mentioned.
Uh, um,
If there
it
is.
was January, and about the first week of January, and I received a letter, and the letter started last year. I was one of your lights,
Wow.
referencing that he was diagnosed with Parkinson's just prior to Christmas, and his wife had heard about my light show and decided that he was pretty down, and she thought, well, maybe this will help pick up his spirits. So they came to see my light show, and I had that clip on that talked about, I called it All Lights On. And it explained that, there were 58,000 lights, one for each person newly diagnosed. And this gentleman is named Marty. And in the letter, he tells me that when he saw the lights come on, he realized, like his epiphany, that he's not alone in this. And there are ways there's people out there that can help you. And it was like magic for him. He was able to turn himself around, felt optimistic, and started looking for people that could help him. So that's pretty powerful
Yeah.
to get a letter like that.
Is there anything you would have done looking back 10 years ago differently than what your journey now, or do you think you would just go at the same pace you have done? Is there anything though you look back and maybe not regret, but would have changed?
Um, Better publisher.
I have better than self-publishing. That's right.
I mean, I didn't know, rolled the odds, I didn't know how to do a light show when I started, didn't know how to run it, how to do a nonprofit. I didn't know how to write a book or publish a book. Uh, 3 out of 4, I guess, isn't bad. The publishing a book, that's a struggle. It's a bigger struggle than I thought it would be because you just have to have a little bit of luck and quite a persistence to get your book in front of the right person at the right time that'll make the magic happen, basically.
Yeah.
So,
I found it even actually it wasn't the writing that was difficult. It was I was done and then literally the format from Microsoft Word to like Amazon was impossible. That took more time. I just was shocked that that was so time consuming than even the writing. So that's just from an independent publishing standpoint. But unfortunately, we need more awareness because the Parkinson's community to me is my world. That I feel it in through my veins and my blood and my heart, and I try 24/7 to get awareness out there, even to people who are not in the Parkinson's community, because I think we need everybody on board to find a cure. But even when you show a book on Parkinson's, it's not easy because the publisher doesn't even know what I'm talking about. So
right.
I admire that you found a publisher. I might have to contact them someday because I actually have, two more books on the way. So, but you're my role model on the publishing. I'm not in your next area, which you'll probably love, since we're moving from publishing books to maybe movies. So if you were asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call
No, I'd go right with the book, Puck Parkinson's.
it? I
I'd
love it.
have
Might
to.
not be allowed to put it on the Disney Channel.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know, maybe that's what's turning people off on my book. One never knows, in the world of marketing, it's a funny world out there. But I talk about almost the same question in the book. I start my book off, with if your life could be displayed in a movie, what movie would it be? And I picked 3 movies that I felt fit the part. One was 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is kind of like a thing where it's a higher intelligence or that man's being guided to a destiny, and that's works into my life. The Blues Brothers, and then the movie It's a Wonderful Life, where one person can make a huge impact in this world. You just have to apply yourself. And I think that in itself is a theme. I would like to say we're both looking for that, for the one person that could just do something that's going to start the ball rolling to help end this disease.
I have a question about just going back quick, because a lot of individuals I speak to don't have their own foundation. I know I didn't want to be a foundation because I'd rather not deal with the IRS and all the money. So I like to put foundations on our site. You could donate right to them, like Michael, and we don't have to deal with all that. I wonder, do you ever, like, I find it hard even as just a person to get some of all the bigger organizations to work together. Because again, my thing is I don't want anything in return. Like when we've met, hopefully by now, I just want to share your journey and get you more awareness. But it's incredible to me sometimes. It's like a struggle to get someone to in 2024 to understand that there's no secret catch, or like if you see the show Shark Tank, there's no,
Yeah.
but wait, there's more. So like literally, I don't want anything. I just want to help. But I even for free, voluntary, and just to help, I seem to struggle at times getting a reply. And it's really sad because I do think we all are family and we should be, but I'm not always getting that kind of
Right.
response, which is in a way shocking. And I tell my wife at night, like, I don't understand, like maybe I'm not doing something. I say I literally want nothing, but that's not enough. So just curious because you're coming from a different standpoint of a foundation. And I wonder if you have struggled sometime, I know you said you don't want to sometimes work with others, which I like, but if you did want to work with others, do you get a nice response or do you find it's kind of like pushed to the side? Just curious.
Well, with my own foundation, I guess I'm limited by I'm limited by the income. And the nicest thing about doing the light show was I did it at the end of the year. So I had that was my budget. So it's like at the end of the year, I'd get my pot of gold. Basically, they would tell me this is what I could just spend in the next year. And then at the end of that year, I'd fund ahead like that. So as I was able to grow the show and sponsors, I was able to do more for people. And now I'm kind of going, in the other direction a little bit.
Right.
But uh, this year I'm keying on social events. And I'm trying to help people with Parkinson's be more social because that's an important thing coming out of the pandemic where
Mhm.
you're told to stay away from everybody. God, I can't think of a more horrible thing to happen to a person that has Parkinson's disease, or especially was newly diagnosed, and all of a sudden be told you can't go see anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, man, this is a disease where you have to get out there, and don't hide in a house. Get outside, get out in the sun, go for a walk.
Yeah.
Uh, have somebody take you for a walk. Um, but so to me, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to help just keep people active and socially right now. That's a
No,
little scary.
yeah, the whole pandemic was very difficult. It brought so much in isolation, but at the same time, on social media, like you said, brought an ability to find and speak to people. I was able to meet you, and I couldn't believe when I found out only 2 years ago that through the World Parkinson Congress, that 10 million people around the world have Parkinson's, and it kind of was a little cloud. Imagine like a Snoopy cartoon that popped up in my head. I'm like, I need to help share everyone's journey. And I was able to interview, 600 people around the world, which I never would have been able to even dream of if it wasn't for the pandemic. So, we hope that we never have something like that again, but it's amazing to know people like you are out there fighting for awareness and a cure. One last area, and then I want to give a minute if you had any areas you wanted to touch on before we wrap up. If you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be? You kind of already touched on it, but maybe some other area. I know you mentioned the 2 hour earlier interview, but is there any specific area you want to leave like words of encouragement? I put you on the spot.
Oh, yeah, all of a sudden, yeah, all of a sudden,
Well, as you're thinking,
you
I'm gonna
shut me
just
up. So that's a pretty good, pretty,
as Mike is thinking, please remember go to his website or even ours, and you'll be able to find Mike. Please support him and all he does in the foundation. That's what this is all about awareness. It's incredible people out there, like in my opinion, Mike, who I consider family, and I consider a lot of individuals I've met. My journey was tough because I lost my best friend, my mother, but I have there's a lot of light to the end of the tunnel of darkness because I've met such inspiring and incredible people like you. So I do want to thank you for all you do and your friendship. But I don't know if you had the answer yet to that. That was my killing the time till you. If not, we'll have to do it. We'll meet again.
Certainly. I'm done.
Nice. Well, on that note, I just really wanted to thank you for joining me today. And again, you inspire me. I love this journey and the story, and I love Christmas, even though it's not really my holiday. I love it. It's one of my favorite times. And every time that great Christmas light battle comes on, I'll be thinking of sending your name into their show. So you would have won. But I really do again want to thank you for your time and send our love and support to you and your family and all the individuals supporting your foundation. So please, everyone, share this. Reach out to Mike. He's an incredible person, and he's out there fighting. He's a not just a hero, in my opinion, but someone who shows you can fight this progression. It was unfortunately too late for my mother, but there are so many ways, like you mentioned, exercise, dieting, and so many other areas of research still being kind of born every day. And that I think you might agree will bring a lot of hope too for everyone listening. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
I have one
All
last
you do.
Yeah, and I have one last message I send after every podcast or before, but this is to you, your family, and all the listeners. And share this if you can, everyone. But we love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone, just like Mike mentioned several times. I, along with Mike, will advocate for you, and together our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started because obviously I've been doing it for a little, not as long as you, but every time I meet a person like you or get your emails or see your posts, it just inspires me to no matter what might be going on with my pain or my life, we have so much more work to do. And even when there is the national plan to NPD, I hope it passes. That doesn't mean that our job is over. Till we find a cure, we still have a lot of work. And I think teaming up together with incredible individuals like you and your foundation really is going to change the world. So again, I just want to thank you for all you do.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Please share this again, support Mike, buy his book, and send us a review, and also on Amazon. I love these reviews. I didn't realize anyone would even buy my book. I'm getting emails, and last night, just quick story on Instagram, my wife is yelling at me to get off the internet, and I just happened to be watching, we watched Amazing Race. I don't know why. I just think I could never do that show. So as I was just kind of quickly scrolling for the night, all of a sudden I see a gentleman and a female, different posts just showing my book, and it was like really touched my heart to know, yeah, my mother's journey's out there, but we're also getting more awareness around the world, and I hope to see this book too out there with ours. Hopefully someday we'll maybe do a little social media post with both books, because that would be great.
That's
But
a great idea.
thank you again, and thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. We have so much more work to do and so much more exciting things to come. So please stay tuned. Please share this, and no matter what, we're gonna both Mike and I be out there fighting for you. And this is not over anytime soon. Hopefully, it will be very shortly. But until it is, you can consider us right there. Mike's the warrior, and I'll be right by his side fighting for everyone. So have a great night. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.